In this video, I'm sharing my honest advice to anyone who wants to get rich, so grab a matcha or a coffee or your drink of choice and let's chat. I'll be sharing lessons from my own personal experience, not from somebody who's perfect, but from somebody who has gone from $0 to $1 million in 10 years, built a business, had a baby, and is honestly still just figuring it all out. So let's get into it. And hey friends, if you're new here, hi, I'm Queenie and I'm a licensed personal finance creator. And I've spent the last few years learning everything that I can about money. Keep in mind that this video is general advice only and not personal financial advice, although it is based on real life experience. You can read my full financial services guide in the description. So here are some things that I would tell my younger self and anyone that's looking to build real wealth in their lifetime. So this first tip actually comes from my dad, and fun fact, I was actually raised by a single stay-at-home dad. And the reason he was able to raise me as a single stay-at-home dad was because he had actually reached financial freedom and he was able to retire early. But to be honest, growing up, I never felt like we were rich. We didn't live in a very fancy area. I went to public schools and he drove this really old, loud car that used to embarrass me. I remember as a kid going to my friends' places and seeing that they had foxtail and all of these fancy things and kind of wishing we could afford the fancier things in life. But as I got older, I realized that we actually were rich in ways that I didn't appreciate at the time. Because my dad had investments and passive income, he didn't need to work and he was able to pay for our lifestyle. And the older I got and the more I started working, I realized that that was actually something that I really wanted in my life too. But I didn't want to be so frugal like he was, and I wanted to build my own version of financial freedom. So the thing that stood out to me most about my dad and a lot of my friends that have achieved financial freedom is that they actually enjoy the process of building wealth and they actually make it fun. Even today, I will have my dad over for dinner and we will actually bond over things like saving money, finding a bargain, or just finding new strategies to invest. So the biggest thing that I've learned is if you treat money like a chore, you're just not going to enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy the process of making money, saving, and building wealth, you're just not really going to be successful with it. But if you treat making money and building wealth like a game, kind of like Monopoly, you can really win over the long term with your finances. There's a quote from the billionaire Richard Branson, which I just love, which goes, "If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong." And I really think that this quote really summarizes what I'm trying to say. If you can love the process of saving money, investing, and building wealth as much as you enjoy spending money, and don't get me wrong, I definitely do enjoy spending money from time to time, being able to buy clothes that I really love, being able to travel and do the things that I want to do with the people I love. I still definitely enjoy spending money on those things, but I also equally love the process of saving money, investing, and building wealth. And I think that if you can embrace both of these things, then you are going to win over the long term with your finances. Something that I wish I did more of, especially in the early years when I was trying to build wealth, I wish I wasn't so hard on myself and maybe allowed myself to treat myself every now and again. I still remember in the early days when we were saving for a deposit for our first home, Pablo and I would often go out with friends to cafes and we wouldn't order anything because we were really focused on saving for our first home. And I kind of wish I could go back in time and tell the young Pablo and Queenie it's okay to spend money on things that you enjoy from time to time as well. And it's also equally important to enjoy the process and treat yourself every now and again. So one thing that has honestly changed the game and changed my life when it comes to my finances is not to save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. And this is another quote from the billionaire investor Warren Buffett. The principle is basically to pay yourself first. So every single month I set aside 20% of my pay and it automatically gets invested. The investing app that I use is called Perla and they're also the sponsor of today's video. They have this really amazing auto invest feature, which just basically allows me to automatically invest 20% of my pay so I don't even have to think about it. And this has honestly been a game changer for my finances. At the moment, I automatically invest in 2 ETFs. The first one is VETH, which is the Vanguard Ethically Conscious International Shares ETF. The management fees for this ETF are 0.16% and the top holdings include Commonwealth Bank, CSL, Westpac, NAB, Wesfarmers, and more. And the other ETF that I automatically invest in is VESG, which is the Vanguard Ethically Conscious International Shares ETF. The management fee for this ETF is 0.18% and the top holdings are Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, and more. So basically VETH and VESG gives me access to both the Australian stock market and the international stock markets without them overlapping. And I also do love how they do have a bit more of an ethical focus because I actually have a daughter who is just over 1 year old now, and looking at her, it really inspires me to make sure that we are investing in companies that are good for our future and especially companies that are focused on sustainability and eco-friendly practices. Of course, I know that this isn't perfect and there are things like greenwashing, but you know, at least I am trying to do my part and investing in more ethically conscious ETFs. And if you would like to check out Pearler, which is the investing app that I use, you can use my code Queenie for a $20 credit, and I have put a link in the description below. You can invest in the ETFs that I've mentioned, and they also do have a lot of pages and information and resources about other ETFs that you could potentially buy with Pearler. So if you're looking to get rich, something important to keep in mind is that compound interest is honestly your superpower. And getting to your first $100,000 is honestly the hardest point, and after that it gets easier and easier to build wealth. So if you feel like building wealth is taking ages and it's just taking way too much effort and too much time, don't worry, because the hardest part is often starting, and then once you've got the ball rolling, it honestly gets easier and easier. Let me demonstrate this with this compound interest calculator. So let's say, for example, you invest $1,000 per month for say 30 years with an 8% return. After 30 years, you'd have over $1.5 million. But if you look at the graph, it's not like it steadily increases in a kind of linear direction. It really is compounded over time. So as you can see, in the first year, you've invested $12,000, but the interest that you've earned is only $532. But now if we go to year 10, you would have invested $120,000, but the interest that you would have made on your investments would be $64,000, which would just be your money being invested and making more money on your money. Basically, you can see the interest that you've earned, which is kind of that orange-red band, and you can see that that orange-red band really does get bigger and bigger over time. And if you cut to year 30, you would have invested a total of $360,000, but the interest that you would have made on your investments would be $1,140,000, which is just crazy. So it really does illustrate that the first $100,000 is the hardest, but then it gets easier and easier over time as more of your investments start making money and your money starts making money on your money, and that money actually becomes more than the money that you're earning through your regular paycheck or your job. So if you want to build serious wealth and passive income, it's really important to start to build multiple sources of income. I want to take you back to 2019. I was actually working for this tech company, and around 20% of our staff got laid off because of COVID. Thankfully, I wasn't one of them, but I honestly felt so guilty, and I felt really sad that a lot of my colleagues got laid off when it was something totally out of their control and something that really wasn't their fault. That time was a wake-up call for me because it made me realize that you really can't just rely on a job in order to achieve financial independence, because you really never know when something could happen that's totally outside of your control and you get laid off. Today, over 5 years later, I do have multiple sources of income. For example, I earn YouTube AdSense money. I also earn money through brand sponsorships. I have affiliate income. I also have my budgeting app called Billroo, and I have passive income from my investments like dividends and also rental income. But all of this definitely didn't happen overnight, and when I was initially starting these new sources of income, they really started quite small, maybe $5 here, $10 here, and I never really thought that they could be as substantial as they are now. But I think it really does go to show that it's really important to just get started, try to build multiple sources of income, because even if you're in a place where one income stream dries up because something happens, at least you have other income streams to rely on. There was actually this really interesting study from the IRS, and what they found was that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And by the way, the IRS is basically the tax office in the US, and they studied the tax returns of millionaires. Here are some of the most common types of income streams. So the first one is dividend income earned through stocks. The next one is earned income from a paycheck, rental income from real estate, royalty income, intellectual property, inventions, etc., capital gains from selling assets that have appreciated in value, profits from a business, and interest from savings accounts, bonds, or lending activities. Once you really start looking into it, there are actually so many different ways to earn money, and I think it's really important to try and find income streams and activities where you can earn an income that actually aligns with your values. So for me, for example, with this YouTube channel, it started out just as a passion project, something that I was doing on the side in the evenings and weekends while working my full-time job. And over the years, I've been able to build up these different sources of income. So now it's able to actually fund my full-time job, and my partner Pablo also works with me full-time on it. Initially, this YouTube channel and my social media presence wasn't bringing in very much money at all, but I think that once you start to work on it and really build those things up, it can actually turn into something that you never really imagined. So I do encourage you to potentially start a business, start a side hustle, start start investing and start looking for ways that you can increase the amount of income streams that you make. And don't get disheartened when you are only making, say, $5 or $10 on the side, because like we mentioned with compound interest, the hardest part is starting, and then it just gets easier and easier over time. On your wealth building journey, you might think that the things that will disrupt you from earning a lot of money or building your wealth could be external things outside of your control. For example, being laid off, the stock market crashing, the property market crashing, or things like that. But what I've actually learned over the years is sometimes the things that hold us back from building serious wealth and financial freedom is actually ourselves and our mindset. I know it's really surprising, but let me share a story with you to explain what I mean. So recently, Pablo and I were looking to buy a new home because we had just welcomed our little baby girl Gia into our family, and we had outgrown the apartment that we had previously bought. So we were looking for new homes to move into. When we were touring these properties, I had this really surprising feeling every time I would inspect a new property. One particular home that we walked into was absolutely beautiful. It was really nice. It was modern. There was plenty of light. It had a lot of space for our growing family, and it honestly checked all of our boxes, and it was perfect for us. But when I walked into this home initially, my thought wasn't, oh, this place is perfect for us. I had this really surprising thought, and the thought was, this home is really nice, but it's too nice for you. And hearing those words honestly stopped me in my tracks, because why was I saying this to myself? Obviously, 5 years earlier, we were in a completely different financial situation, looking at the cheapest apartments that we could find in Sydney. And these places definitely weren't very nice. And 5 years later, we had grown our wealth and we were in a completely different financial position. And the places that we were looking at now were light years ahead of the places that we used to look at. And what this experience taught me is that sometimes when you start building your wealth and you start leveling up in your financial game, you might encounter things like limiting beliefs, which essentially try to pull you back down to the level that you're comfortable with. Me looking at those beautiful homes, I kind of felt a little bit uncomfortable because I was used to a certain level of financial success and financial security, and there was a part of me that was trying to hold myself back from reaching my new level of success and financial freedom. So I think it's really important to keep this in mind when you are on your wealth building journey, that your mindset is really important, and it's really important to check in with yourself and make sure that you're not trying to sabotage your own success, because that can definitely happen too. And I do want to share some exciting news. We actually did end up buying that place that I thought was too nice for us. So I'm glad that I was able to catch myself in the moment and, hear those limiting beliefs and recognize them for what they were, limiting beliefs that weren't true. So every day, here are some things that really help with my mindset when it comes to success and financial freedom. So the first thing that I do is I do a 10-minute morning gratitude practice and a 10-minute evening gratitude practice before I go to bed. So I basically list out all of the things that I'm grateful for, usually just 3 things, and they can be really simple things. For example, I'm grateful for my health and my body for keeping me alive. I'm grateful that I had a nice matcha today, and I'm grateful that I have amazing people in my life. And I found that these things help train my mind to look for the positive things in life rather than focusing on the negative things. Another thing that I do is I like to work out at least once per day, and I like to do this in the morning because it really sets the tone for the rest of my day. And I also love doing meditation every single day. I actually have the Calm app, by the way, not sponsored, but I have a subscription to the Calm app, and it helps me through a guided meditation every day. And I do this in the morning and also in the evening for 10 minutes. And I find that it really helps with not only my mood and focus throughout the day, but it even helps with my sleep. So before bed, I do a meditation and it helps put me into a nice restful sleep. So highly recommend trying it, especially at night if you are curious about meditation. And the last point is that it's important to find out what rich actually means to you and what you even want to achieve in your lifetime. For me, being rich used to mean financial security and basically being able to go to a restaurant and order anything on the menu. But now, especially that I've had my baby daughter, it means having options, and it also means having time to spend with her, time to spend with my family, and time to spend on things that really excite me and bring me meaning. Back in the day when we were saving for our first home around 7 years ago, I remember I used to cook every single meal from scratch, and I often used to take the longest bus routes to save a few dollars. Those chapters and kind of scrimping and saving definitely helped in the early years when I was trying to build wealth, but nowadays I do value time and comfort over saving a few dollars. For example, if we're looking to travel overseas, instead of buying the cheapest red-eye flight or a flight that has multiple stops, which is really inconvenient, instead of doing that to save a few dollars, I would much prefer to pay a bit extra for a flight that goes directly to the destination at a reasonable time, and potentially even upgrading with points to get premium economy or business class. I also used to do everything myself when it came to my business and personal life, but now I'm learning to outsource more and delegate things, and even automate some things with AI, and this has honestly saved me so much time and made me a lot less stressed, because I really want to be present in this season of my life, especially now that I'm a mother. And I think it's really important for you to define your rich life as well. It might be similar to mine, or it could be completely different, and that's the beauty of this life. Your rich might be freedom, it might mean having a home to live in that's your own, or travel, or even just peace. And a fun thing that you can do is you can actually go into ChatGPT. With the following prompt, you can ask it what your rich life might mean to you. So if you're someone like me that talks to ChatGPT a lot, it can be quite accurate. So I just asked, based on everything that you know about me, what do you think that being rich means to me? ChatGPT came up with this quite accurate response. So it says, based on everything that I know about you, Queenie, I believe being rich means living a life of freedom, impact, and joy on your own terms, which is honestly very accurate. So here's what it says. Freedom over your time. You've built businesses like Bilru and created content so that you can choose how you spend your days. Totally true. You value the ability to work a 4-day week, which is actually true. I now only work a 4-day week, which I'm honestly so grateful for. So I have Fridays and the weekends to spend with family and my little daughter. And being rich means not having to trade your time for money in a job you don't love, which is accurate. It also means taking care of the people you love. Very true. Your dad's early retirement to raise you deeply shaped your view of wealth. It wasn't about flashy, it was about secure and intentional, which is totally true. You want to give Gia that same sense of security and opportunity, whether that's a bilingual education, time with both parents, or an early introduction to financial literacy. Very true. You also want to support Pablo, your mom, and maybe even have more kids without financial pressure. Very true. Experiencing the world in style without the guilt. Rich doesn't mean private jets. It means being able to say yes to the destination wedding, the trip to Tomorrowland, the tailored outfits in Vietnam, and the beautiful wedding in Hoi An, which is honestly so true. You're savvy with credit card points, love luxury for less hacks, and show that abundance can be both smart and joyful, which is totally true and totally me. Having options, security, and peace of mind. Rich means not worrying about the bills, emergencies, or whether Bilru will survive. You're not trying to hoard money, you're building a 10 million plus net worth and a $30,000 a month in passive income, so you can be work optional and selective with your energy. Very true. Making a difference. You're not just building wealth, you're showing others how to do it. You created Bilru and wrote the fun finance formula to help people feel in control, not ashamed of their finances. Rich means being able to give back, whether that's mentoring, educating, or eventually donating a portion of profits to causes you care about. And honestly, I can't wait to be in a position with Bilru to be profitable so that we can donate to causes that we care about. So honestly, this is very true. So I'm curious to see from you if this ChatGPT hack works, and if it does, illustrate what your rich life could look like. So if you've made it this far into this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Just remember that being rich doesn't mean having designer bags or yachts. It's about freedom, fun, and security, and using money as a tool to live meaningfully, generously, and joyfully. Don't forget, if you would like to start investing and start building your journey towards financial freedom, you can check out Perla, which is the investing app that I use, and I honestly love it. I've got a link in the description below, and you can use my code Queenie for a $20 credit. And finally, the secret word is mum. So write mum in the comments if you made it to the end. Thank you. Bye.